Soukaku, the only support unit claiming to be tier 0 since the release. It's even better than Rina, which is an S rank unit. And look, Soukaku can get to tier 0 even at Mindscapes 0. I wonder why. But in any case, welcome back. Today we're going over the last of the A rank supports. I already covered both Nicole and Lucy, and I finally decided to go into VR training to test some Soukaku mechanics and interactions. We're going over her kit, some interesting mechanics, best builds and this, so you can start getting the maximum potential from Soukaku. Soukaku is a support unit from section 6. She goes for the ice attributes and she has the highest attack between all of the A rank supports. That's a really good thing since Soukaku relies on her attack to increase her support potential. She's similar to Lucy since both of them can provide flight attack for your DPS. However, unlike Lucy, Soukaku's support potential is tied to her core skill. This makes it a bit easier to unlock Soukaku's potential, especially if you're not looking to increase her damage potential. Just like Nicole with Juyu-1, Soukaku is in a good spot thanks to the high synergy available with Ellen. Despite that, a huge flight attack bonus like the one provided by Soukaku can be used by a wide range of characters, so don't feel forced to use Soukaku with Ellen only. Starting with her core skill, Soukaku is able to buff herself based on her initial attack. This can go up to 500 attack, and the percentage of her attack used scales with her core skill level. Depending on your core skill level, you need to meet a certain attack in order to get this 500 attack. This buff happens whenever you trigger Fly the Flag, which is a mechanic that we're going to explain later. If you consume Vortex stacks when triggering it, the attack provided by the buff gets doubled. Whenever you trigger a quick assist or a chain attack using Fly the Flag, you can pass this buff to the next unit. This means you can get up to 1000 flat attack on your DPS as long as you set up quick assists and chains properly. For example, since quick assists go forward, you need to make sure that the character after Soukaku is your DPS unit. For chain attacks, you need to chain from Soukaku to your DPS. Her additional ability is what makes the Mono Ice team something really strong. She provides a team-wide buff that increases ice damage by 20%, and unlike Nicole's one, this lasts for 22 seconds. So you don't need to keep refreshing it consistently, and since it shares the same duration as the core skill buff, it's really easy for you to keep track of it. Sadly, activating Soukaku's ability can be quite demanding since there's still no Section 6 member, and the only two other ice units are S rank, and one of them is also a limited unit. This means that if you don't own either Lycan or Ellen, Soukaku won't be able to benefit from her additional ability, which is something fine unless you're running Soukaku as a DPS. Now we're going to start her kit explanation with her special attacks, since a lot of her kit rely on it. The default special is a quick combo of a single weave and a finishing move. As usual, don't worry about your default special, since they are not a big deal. X special, on the other hand, is quite interesting for a lot of reasons. Your X special is similar to the default special, but you also release a wind current for each X special cast. You can chain as many X special casts as long as you have enough energy. Once your energy depletes or you stop pressing the X special button, you use a finishing move that is exactly the same one as your default special. Now for the interesting points. If you cast it far away from the enemy, you actually notice that in some cases this can lead to more hits than if you cast it close to the enemy. Damage-wise, it's better for you to cast it far away if you're getting 2 or more hits when compared to a close range cast. If you only get a single extra hit from your wind current, then casting it at close range is going to deal more damage. The second interesting point is that you get a Vortex stack whenever you cast your X special. These Vortex stacks can be consumed in order to provide some enhancements to Soukaku. You can consume 3 of these stacks whenever you cast a Fly the Flag, which is sort of a special finisher. You can cast Fly the Flag by holding the special attack button instead of tapping it. This move has no energy cost, so you can cast it even at 0 energy. This is the only move that can trigger a quick assist, which happens to be exactly the finishing move that will buff Soukaku and lets you transfer to another unit using a quick assist. Holding the special attack button after casting your X special allows you to do a quick version of Fly the Flag. This one is way faster than going for the default version, so I highly recommend you to cast this one since it triggers her buff and a quick assist as soon as she hits an enemy. Pressing the attack button after finishing your Fly the Flag will trigger another finishing move that has a quite long animation. Her basic attack has 2 different variations. The first one is the default, which deals physical damage to the enemy and can be chained up to 3 times. Some of these animations are quite slow and deal underwhelming damage, so I wouldn't recommend you to use this unless you're looking for some extra energy regeneration between your swaps. However, Soukaku also has access to an enhanced basic attack if you are in the Frosted Banner state. You can enter the Frosted Banner state if you consume 3 Vortex stacks when casting Fly the Flag. The Frosted Banner lasts for a total of 6 attacks or 45 seconds. This means that even if you use the Quick Assist to buff your main DPS unit, Soukaku will still have access to this enhanced state. These enhanced basic attacks are faster, but the last one has a really long animation. Dash attack also has some interesting points. It's faster than going for basic attack 1 and 2, and using a dash attack lets you follow up straight to her last basic attack. This works both for your default and your enhanced basic attacks. Your Frosted Banner state also enhances your dash attacks, so feel free to use dash attack into basic attack 3 if you want to zap Soukaku out of the field as fast as possible. Dodge counters are also quite fast and can deal some decent damage. Her defensive assist follow-up is actually a bit weak, and I wouldn't recommend you to use it unless you're looking for some extra damage. The daze multiplier is low, but the damage can be a bit interesting. The only good point in your follow-up is the fact that you can link it into a quick Fly the Flag. Now for the final and honestly worst part of Soukaku's kit. We're talking about her chain attack and her ultimate. Her chain attacks always give you a Vortex stack and cast a Fly the Flag when used, so you can easily get your buff to the next ally you are using in your chain. However, Soukaku's chain attack is so slow that was enough for players to nickname her as Soukaku. And honestly, they are not wrong. Her chain attack is the longest one I ever seen, taking a total of 3.5 seconds. Some people might not even notice, but even if the gray stun bar goes back to 100%, the stun timer actually won't change. This means that Soukaku will actually eat a total of 3.5 seconds from your stun windows just to deal underwhelming damage. Her ultimate is also insanely long and also buffs Soukaku to act as a DPS. Using your ultimate will give you the Masked state, which gives Soukaku 15% crit rate for 15 seconds. It also gives max Vortex stacks and also cast a Fly the Flag when finishing it. This means you also get the Frosted Banners once you cast your ultimate. The damage multiplier of Soukaku's ultimate is actually really nice, but for how long this animation takes, you'll definitely get a lower DPS than using the ultimate from your DPS unit. Besides that, the crit rate can be useless if you're not feeding Soukaku for the rest of the Masked state, which is something that you usually won't do. Now before we start talking about skill priority and builds, we're going over her Mindscapes, since they can enable another playstyle for Soukaku. The very first Mindscape only increases the duration of her buff. Instead of 22 seconds, your buffs now last for 30 seconds. Honestly, this Mindscape is really whatever, since 22 seconds is more than enough to keep it with 100% uptime. Her second Mindscape starts to bring a little more value for her on-field Soukaku, since your attacks now get a 15% chance to grant you a Vortex stack. If you happen to be at max stacks already, getting another Vortex stack will instead recover your energy. You hardly benefit from it if you're playing Soukaku as a support, so this is mostly useful if you field Soukaku for some time. Mindscape 4 increases Ice Squad members' damage potential, including Soukaku as well. Enemies hit by Fly the Flag will have their ice resistance reduced by 10%. Since resistance effects are somewhat harder to find, this Mindscape is actually interesting, especially for a mono ice team. A final Mindscape is a pure DPS Mindscape. You get extra attacks in your Frosted Banner state and also increased damage. This makes Soukaku damage output really interesting and something that shouldn't be overlooked. Pair this with the fact that her ultimate gives 15% crit rate and you can get some good sustained damage through her whole Masked state duration. Now that you have a better look on Soukaku's potential, we can go over her skill upgrade priority. If you're playing her as a pure support, you can go only for her core skill. If you have some spare resources and want to increase a bit of her damage, just level up her X special and maybe your chain attack. But if you're going for Soukaku as a DPS character, you want to level up her ultimate, followed by her basic attack and X special, dodge, and finally your assist. Keep in mind that going for Soukaku as a DPS isn't advised at lower Mindscape. For a support-focused gameplay, as you must have noticed, I didn't recommend leveling up her chain attack since you usually lose a good damage potential from your stun window. Instead, the best option is to trigger stun manually using a quick Fly the Flag, since doing so allows you to pass the buff forward to your DPS. Then, instead of finishing a full chain, you can simply cancel your chain attack. This allows you to get a higher stun window for your main DPS. But there are still some problems with this rotation. If you're running Swing Jazz 4-piece on Soukaku and if your DPS is running Starlight Engine or has some interactions with Quick Assists, you won't be able to trigger these effects since Soukaku is not triggering Quick Assists and not going for her chain attack. Swing Jazz 4-piece problem can be somewhat fixed by running Swing Jazz 4-piece attacks on another unit, either a second support or your stunner. For the lack of quick assist, the only option is running double supports and leaving Soukaku between your DPS and your second support. This way you can stop the chain attack on your second support and trigger a quick assist for your DPS. If you rather go for a more traditional way and don't care enough for damage optimization, then you don't need to worry too much about using a flight flag, since your chain attack always casts for you. You also get a Vortex stack when doing a chain attack, so you spend less energy on her X special. Just remember that your DPS units need to come right after Soukaku in order to get the attack buff. If you need to trigger a quick assist, then let Soukaku be the last one in your chain sequence. For the DPS gameplay, focus on getting Frosted Banner as fast as possible. Once you get Frosted Banner, feel free to unleash the damage from your basic attacks on the enemy. If you own her Mindscape too, you can get some Vortex stacks by simply hitting the enemies. Just remember that you need to avoid using your quick assist, since doing so will remove the buff from Soukaku and pass it to another unit. If you're running a stunner with a high field time, you can pass this buff to your stunner to increase their damage output while the build stays on the enemy. When going for chain attack, I would still recommend you to skip Soukaku's chain attack and simply go for an X special into a quick flight flag. This is the best way for you to use a stun timer, since going for a full basic attack combo is slightly faster than your chain attack, while also dealing more damage than your chain attack. When going for an ultimate, I highly recommend you to use a quick flight flag before your ultimate, since this way you can benefit from the attack buff, and if you own her Mindscape 4, you can also benefit from the resistance decrease it provides. Now, for her disc stats, you'll have a lot of different options depending on your playstyle and team composition. For a more support-focused approach, you can either go for 4-piece Swing Jazz or 4-piece Freedom Blues. Swing Jazz is the default option for supports, but requires you to use her chain attack. If you're playing or plan to go for a chain skip playstyle, you won't get a chance to activate this effect. 4-piece Freedom Blue can be used if you're playing on a mono ice team. This makes it easier for you to keep the enemy frozen while also increasing Soukaku's damage output thanks to the increased anomaly buildup. If none of these options seems interesting for you, then you can run only 2-piece effects. For the 2-piece effects, we have a lot of options. Swing Jazz 2-piece is a great addition since Soukaku can have some energy problems depending on your disc choice and weapon used. Hormone Punk makes it easier for you to reach the attack cap. Remember that this is your top priority, so if you're not reaching the necessary amount of attack, slotting a 2-piece Hormone Punk is a must. Freedom Blues, Polar Metal, Woodpecker Electro, and maybe Puffer Electro 2-piece effects can be used for increased damage output. This one comes down to preference and best discs you can find, so feel free to mix and match as long as you can get enough attack for her core skill. For a DPS focused build, you should go for Woodpecker 4-piece. Going for Polar Metal 4-piece isn't advised since your burst rotation loses a huge damage potential. And once you get her Mindscape 6, the damage multiplier starts to saturate. Puffer 4-piece can be used, however, Soukaku is not a burst DPS. Her ultimate takes a huge portion of the stun window, and you can easily keep the Frosted Banner state for the whole fight. For the 2-piece effect, feel free to run Polar Metal, Woodpecker Electro, or Puffer Electro. Hormone Punk can be used in case you're not hitting the cap, but if you're running a DPS Soukaku, you'll probably invest enough on her discs to the point where you'll be able to hit this cap without a Hormone Punk. For disc stats, once again you need to remember that your top priority is getting enough attack in order to reach the maximum potential for Soukaku's core skill. So for disc 4, you want to go for attack ratio. Crit rate can be used especially if you're going for a DPS build, but the value is going to depend on your current crit ratio. If you're running a mono ice team and went for the Freedom Blues 4-piece effect, you can also go for anomaly proficiency, since Soukaku's X special can build a good amount of anomaly on enemies. For disc number 5, you can go for ice damage for the best damage output. Going for attack is fine if you still need attack to max your core skill buff, however, ice damage discs can get attack as a sub-stat. For support, you want to run energy regen on your disc 6, however, DPS units can run attack here since you spend most of the time on field, and this will help you generate enough energy for your X special. For substats, attack ratio is your top priority. This enables you to run other discs instead of attack once. After that, you should look for crit rate, crit damage, ability proficiency, flat attack, and penetration. If you're going for a Freedom Blows build, then feel free to ignore crit rolls. And finally, for the weapons. Her signature weapon is going to be the best option both for team utility and Soukaku's damage as well. It offers ice damage and a combat attack buff for your whole squad. Whipping Cradle can be used since Soukaku's animations are quite long and you can swap Cancel to your DPS. However, it's not going to be consistent as her signature weapon. If you're going for DPS, Whipping Cradle can actually beat your signature weapon, but once you get 3 or more copies for her signature, Whipping Cradle starts to fall off. For supports, other options can be used, but remember that you need to swap some discs and set effects to keep your attack at the required amount. And this should be everything you need to know about Soukaku. Attack being a stat that can be used both by crit-based and anomaly units makes Soukaku an option for any team composition. Her main weakness is the fact that almost all her animations are really long and can actually hurt your total DPS. If you found this video helpful, remember to give it a like and consider subscribing as well. If you still have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. As always, thanks for watching, have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in my next video.